The Baileys have guided Chuck Schumer's political life, which is a little weird given they don't exist.
So this guy, John Oliver, who was a douchebag, did a great segment, though. Doesn't mean he can't do a great segment now and then, but he's an establishment shill.
For sure.
He's there to keep you voting Democrat, to keep you believing in the two-party system. That's what the John Oliver's job is. He's there to gaslight you about real solutions, and he's there to stoke your hate for half the country.
He doesn't want to be deported.
And but here he did a video where he made So the reason why I want to show this is because I was at dinner the other night, and people cannot help but bring up that when Donald Trump lies. Like, do you see that thing where he brought up the chart and he was lying about it? Did you think the thing where the guy and he was lying about the chart and everybody? And I'm like, yeah, it's not a big deal to me that the president is lying about economic numbers.
Remember when an auto pen was your president, you geniuses?
That's what. So that's what I didn't want to get in an argument. I didn't want to go, we just went through 4 years of a guy who wasn't actually president. They lied and told us he was. But these are the lies that bother you? I mean, they should all bother you. I'm not saying, but this pretend that Donald Trump is some kind of a unique liar or some kind of uniquely corrupt politician. I don't know why it rubs me the wrong way, but it does. Is Donald Trump
insane?
Is he a liar? Yes. Is he a corrupt politician? Yes. Is he different than any other politician or president? No.
You know what you do, Jimmy? I realize more and more. Go all in on their viewpoint to the point of absurdity. That's the best move. Go, I know we've never had a liar before Donald Trump. We had a great system.
I wish we could get back to the Joe Biden, someone you can believe.
I wish I could put my mask back on for COVID.
A guy who had to pardon his entire fucking family.
Back to 2014. Because they're not human traffickers.
Even though he spent 4 years saying nobody's above the law, apparently nobody is the name of his entire family.
Yeah.
So John Oliver did this. So the reason why I wanted to show this was to show you that not only are Democrats just as big as liars, but they're maniacal and psychopathic liars. And Chuck Schumer let's watch.
But I actually want to talk less about Chuck Schumer himself and more about two of his favourite people, Joe and Eileen Bailey. They're a couple that throughout Schumer's career, he has talked about a lot.
They're a middle-class couple in Massapequa, which is a suburb on Long Island.
Joe and Eileen Bailey, this middle-class couple, they bought into Reagan Republicanism in 1980. Joe and Eileen are worried about losing their jobs or their friends' jobs.
The Baileys really don't believe in trickle-down. They don't believe in a whole lot of government spending, but they believe in tax breaks for kids to go to college.
He's an insurance adjuster and lives in the New York suburbs. By New York standards, he makes $50,000 a year. If he lived in the middle of the country, he'd make $40,000. Wife works in a medical office. She makes about $20,000. She might make $15,000 elsewhere. And I have guided my political life through the Baileys.
The Baileys have guided Chuck Schumer's political life, which is a little weird given they don't exist. Seriously, he invented them. Schumer first introduced the world to the Baileys in his 2007 book, Positively American, Winning Back the Middle-Class Majority, One Family at a Time. In it, he mentions the Baileys an astonishing 265 times in 264 pages. But he'd apparently been talking about them for years before the book was published. One of his former spokespeople said he's always asking, what would the Baileys think? And to be fair, Schumer acknowledges that some may find this a little weird.
If you ask my staff, I've been talking about and talking to the Baileys for 15 years. I have conversations with them. One of my staffers once said I had imaginary friends to the press. Got me in some trouble. But these people are real, and I respect them, and I really love them, and I care about them.
Okay, sure, but they're literally not real, Chuck. But even if you can understand the potential utility of creating a prototypical voter in your head, this goes way beyond that, because Schumer's given the Baileys an unnecessarily detailed backstory. For instance, he said Joe takes off his cap and sings along with the national anthem before the occasional Islanders game. Okay. And when their daughter Megan, oh yeah, they've got kids by the way, told Eileen a friend was caught cheating on a quiz, Eileen was appalled because lying is not tolerated in the house ever. Also, Eileen apparently helps with the clothing drive at her church, and her father had a prostate cancer scare a few years ago. Again, this is a made-up family. None of these people exist. But wait, I'm still not done. Apparently, Joe Bailey would never have a goatee. They watch Sex and the City and Desperate Housewives, though Joe pretends not to like either show. They think most baseball players probably take steroids, and if they were to ever go out to a Chinese restaurant, they would order Kung Pao chicken. That is a J.R.R. Tolkien level of gratuitous backstory, and I don't say that lightly. But the Baileys do seem to have a lot of sway over Schumer's politics, as he's brought them up when discussing everything from the 2008 financial crisis to cybersecurity, which he framed as protecting the security the Baileys feel when they go online to buy birthday presents. And to hear Schumer tell it, the Baileys' views can be complicated.
The Baileys are not anti-immigration, but they are anti-illegal immigration. They really dislike the Enron executives who stole money, but they hate the people who burn the flag even more. They are pro-choice. They understand that a fundamental decision like that should be made by the individual, but they're glad their church isn't.
Really? Are you sure about that? And the more you hear about the Baileys, the more it feels like they represent a very particular slice of the electorate. Schumer said that they supported the civil rights and anti-Vietnam War movements because they understood that morality was on the side of the protesters. But starting in the late 60s, when those protesters cursed the returning veterans and Stokely Carmichael advocated armed resistance against the white ruling class, the Baileys were lost, which, fun fact, is both a misleading history of the civil rights movement and what people who never supported it tend to say. And yet Schumer will insist the Baileys' concerns are widespread and that they could just as easily have been the Ramirez's of Port Chester, the Kims of Elk Grove, California, or the Saleems of Dearborn, Michigan. But crucially, for all he talks about how much he loves the Baileys, they don't seem to return that love, because in 2021, he explained how the Baileys had voted in the past few presidential elections.
They voted for Clinton and then they voted for Bush. They're not a member of one party or another. They're independent.
Did they vote for Donald Trump?
Both of them did in 2016. Joe Bailey still did in 2020 with misgivings, but she didn't.
Yeah. The Baileys voted for Trump. And just this March, a reporter actually got an update on their voting history.
You said the Baileys voted for Trump in 2016. They split Trump-Biden in 2020. I'm wondering who they voted for in 2024.
Probably voted for Trump. Probably voted for Trump. But if you ask them why, I think they'd say, above all, crime.
Okay, so to recap, of the 6 votes the Baileys had across the last 3 presidential elections, 5 went to Donald Trump, most recently because of crime, which, for what it's worth, was down in every category last year, with violent crime at its lowest rate in 20 years. They also think the civil rights movement went too far and aren't against immigration, just illegal immigration. And this is the couple who, in Chuck Schumer's own words, have guided his political life. And at this point, it might be worth asking, is that a good idea? Because the truth is, Schumer's devotion to his imaginary friends may help explain why he and the Democratic Party have been so underwhelming in recent years. Because he seems to be focusing a huge amount on the interest of the Baileys from Long Island, while forgetting other voters actually exist. And look, I'm not saying that we shouldn't think about how his messaging plays with suburban middle-class voters with pretty right-of-centre views, or that they're not theoretically winnable in the future. What I am saying is, by tailoring your policies so heavily to them, you are pulling yourself to the right. And in doing so, could be alienating not only the rest of your base, but new voters looking for a party that speaks for them. So, Senator Schumer, at least when it comes to formulating policy, it might be time to break up with the Baileys, which really shouldn't be that hard to do, given that politically, it seems they've already broken up with you.
So go ahead, Kurt. Turn Kurt up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Schumer's more in touch with voters than this idiot, by the way. That's exactly kind of stupid. Do they sound stupid? Yeah, that's what the people are mostly. And so Oliver imagines in his head he's talking to their kids, you know, millennials that like John Oliver. It's just like some boomer liberals and their dumb kids watch John Oliver and laugh at the boomer liberals, but they're going to be them. If they're lucky and can get a house, they'll be them. His home country of UK that I'm sure he never wants to go back to, by the way, he's like something out of Love Actually. Like he really thinks that voting is real still. Chuck Schumer and that weird occultic tulpa he made in his mind are closer to reality than this dipshit here. Because they all loved Schumer before. Colbert's dancing around with them. Remember? They're having a nice vaccine dance.
They're high-fiving Schumer.
So now you got a problem with the Baileys? Fuck Oliver. I'm on Schumer's side. I'm going to start putting cheese on raw hamburger now.
So the reason why I showed you that was because it's funny, but B, the real reason I showed you that is because when people tell you that Donald Trump and they love to go out, and it's easy to make fun of Donald Trump. Everybody does it. That's why it's so easy, right? And because he's basically a salesman as a president, right? He didn't
it's
come up.
It's hard now.
He didn't
because I want to make fun of his support of Israel, and you can't really do that.
Yeah, or you get kicked out. But it's just this idea that Donald Trump invented lying, or that he's the only one, or he's the worst, or whatever. That what he just showed you there is psychopathology. That this through 30, 40 years, he's had this made up couple that he insists is real. He can't just say, Joe Blow and his wife on Long Island, I know these people, this is what they think like. He has to make up he made up that their kids he had a cancer scare and his kid got caught on a thing, and he made up something.
He read stats. He based this egregore he created in his head off of real stats that he knows about. The question is, if you knew how the Baileys felt this whole time, why were you the fake Trump opponent, dipshit?
Yeah.
Why were you kneeling to BLM with a whatever the hell Kenya scarf they all did that with? Like, you knew about this the whole time, and your fictional family, you knew about what they wanted the whole time, and you went against it. And now suddenly this loser John Oliver, who should be put in a catapult and sent back to the UK immediately, he just noticed you suck. Schumer's right in this case. The imaginary family that he thought up in his head is closer to reality than any New York liberal moron. That's a fact.
Okay, but that's not the point of me showing this. The point of me showing this,
I loved it,
is to show you how crazy the Democratic leader in the Senate is and has been, and has been for decades and decades. They're all crazy. They all spin sensational, fabulous stories. They're all fabulists. And
we only mock it when it's okay. Now it's okay for John Oliver to bring it up.
So that's right. That's another thing. It makes
me mad.
Now it's okay for John Oliver to mock it, I guess. Because what I think happened was the phone call went out. We got to get rid of Chuck Schumer.
Oh,
so now it's okay to make fun of him. They're going to get AOC to take his job. So there's a plan by the donor class behind the scene, and John Oliver got the note somehow that it's okay to make fun of Chuck Schumer now because we're going to get rid of him.
They don't even have to let him in on the plan, by the way.
That's what I think happened. In fact, here Mays says, fun fact, in 2007, Schumer changed the name of the Baileys. Before 2007, he called them Joe and Eileen O'Reilly. He changed the name of his imaginary friends for his book. So Scott Jennings had tweeted out, he's the right-wing commentator that's hired to be on the panels at CNN. He says, if you don't watch anything else today, take 7 minutes and behold that Chuck Schumer has invented fictional New Yorkers named the Baileys, developed an entire backstory for them over several years, and based his entire worldview on them. Does he belong in the Senate or an asylum? So that's pretty funny. But this person here says the Baileys are a fictional construct based on a high-level hypothetical. This is too complex for simple minds like Scott Jennings, so they think you are crazy. No, that's not what that is. Chuck Schumer didn't say this is a construct or I'm basing this on a amalgamation of a bunch of people that I know. No, he's saying these are real people. He's inventing fake people, giving you fake backstories, telling you that he talked to them. He talks to them. He said, I talked to them. So this isn't what that is. This is a guy being a psychopathic liar.
Well, okay, he is. But the thing that's funny is, if you know Long Island, that incoherence is literally a lot of the. Tim Dillon talks about it nonstop because he's from there. They're like that.
Yeah.
The thing that's weird is to make up a fake family instead of, a real one.
Yeah, why not
This
just pick,
weird amalgam family?
Why does he choose a real family? Because he doesn't actually talk to anybody.
He cooks cheese on the grill.
Do you see how he cooks a cheeseburger, Kurt?
I'm surprised how in touch he is with the pulse of Long Island with his made-up family. I'm genuinely impressed. All these people, it's not hypotheticals.
So why
That's
make
how
up
they
a
are.
family? Why make up a family? That's the part that shows you
Do
how
not
crazy he
offend
is.
any specific real people from Long Island is my guess.
Come see us on tour in Rutherford, New Jersey, New York, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Chicago, Louisville, Kentucky, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.